Hey guys, welcome to the Ecom Toolbox podcast with Perry and Kim,
Kim and Perry,
where we open the hood of our own business to show you how we run things and talk to Amazon sellers like you about how to run your side hustle like a real business. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. This episode is part of a series that's really strikes at the heart of why we started the podcast. We know every reseller reaches a point where the questions in their business change, and as their business is growing, they're stacking up wins and getting more comfortable, but at the same time, there's new, different, maybe harder challenges. And sometimes, if you're not deeply networked, those challenges pile up and they really start to feel like a heavy weight. So, this is an episode with someone we very much consider a peer and an equal. We've known Nick for a long time. And, Nick, you've built a real business. You've got a lot of experience in the industry. And you understand as well as we do the hurdles that come with selling on Amazon and e-commerce in general. So, welcome to the podcast, Nick.
Yeah, thanks for the warm welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. How long have we known each other?
It's got to be since, I joined your old group. Well, actually, I think there was a group we were part of. First time I saw you on social media, I think would have been 2017. Through an old group that we had both been part of. Then I followed you guys over to another group, RE Sourcing Secrets. And then I think we met in person for the first time in 2019. Maybe it was ended 2008.
It was that retreat, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we've talked about Robin Johnson before. We both used her as a coach. And she threw, for 2 or 3 years in a row, she threw these amazing retreats in Phoenix.
Yeah, they were pretty amazing. Rent a huge house. They were
She made the boring stuff sexy and fun.
Yes.
Yeah, I know at least for us, she was, Kim referenced in some other podcasts, like when we got our first coach, we were choosing between someone who would teach us to scale quickly and basically Robin, who makes you get into the nuts and bolts of your business, kind of like what we want to do with our school group and this podcast. And we chose the sexy, let's scale fast first, and then came back to Robin later. Did you?
Because we knew it would be fun, right? We wanted to make sure we were engaged and learning and moving forward. And then we realized that we really needed a better foundation under us. And we went back.
Yeah, it was the exact same for me. Hit 7 figures in my first 10 months, took my books to Robin, and she's like, at the pace you're at, you're going to be out of business in 3 months. Just burning cash, like sales numbers looked great. Everything was fantastic, but wasn't putting a whole lot in the bank account, and was amassing debt. Yeah, it was really hard the first time I met with Robin, and she just sat me down and went, this isn't how it's supposed to look.
Yeah, and I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people, right? Because especially post-COVID, that 12 to 14 months of COVID sales made the business look really sexy and really easy, but they probably didn't pay attention. A lot of people didn't pay attention to the numbers under the hood.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's real easy when things are flying off the shelf and profit margins are high. It's really easy to be profitable at that point. But when the dynamics of the market change, can you actually go in and dig through everything and make sure that you're maintaining your profitability and things are actually doing what they're supposed to do?
Yeah. Well, let's jump back to the beginning of your Amazon story. We've shared the first few episodes, kind of how we got into it, but your backstory. How did you hear about Amazon? What made you think this could work as a business for you?
So my first go at researching reselling was probably way back in 2010. And I was a carpenter at the time. That was the great financial crisis. Most of the unions were telling people not even to come apply because there was no place to put them. Telling people that were currently in the union, go find a different job. So I researched it. I was too chicken to jump at it. I didn't think it would actually work. So I put it on the back burner for 7 years. And then at the time I had just had my second daughter. I was working for a lumber company It was like the pay was great. The insurance was great. Everything was great, other than I was gone from the home from like 4:30 in the morning and would get home at like 5:30. And then obviously hour away from work, so you're getting up at 3:30 in the morning. You're going to bed shortly after you get home. And I didn't want to spend my entire life like that, essentially miss my kids growing up. So I revisited reselling. Started off on eBay, flipping some. I was actually buying high-end electronics. So there is a couple of lakes by us, and we're just north of Chicago. These are tens of millions of dollar homes, and they had all these 1970s super high-end electronics sitting in a thrift store. I was buying them for like $10, selling them for 500 on eBay. It was wildly profitable. Got an eBay business up and running, doing a couple thousand a month, except for it was overtaking my house. You just had junk everywhere. So then I started down the rabbit trail of Amazon. So that would have been April, May. I paid for coaching and launched my business. And then,
So wait, you did a hard pivot from eBay to
yep,
Amazon, or was it gradually shut down the eBay and then scale
hard
up the
pivot,
Amazon?
hard
Yeah.
pivot. Like actually, probably by June, once I had sent my first shipment into Amazon, I just took all my eBay stuff and dropped it off at the thrift store. I
Oh,
was
wow.
done. Yeah.
Took it back where you got it, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
So what was there like a pivotal aha moment where you realized this could be a full-time gig and not just a side hustle for you?
So honestly, it was right away. So I had gotten my business set up, got all the paperwork done, went out for my first sourcing trip, and the one of the first places I stopped was a Rockport store that was going out of business. It was the final week of the going out of business sale. Talked to the manager. She's like, "Hey, you can't buy anything right now, but come back Tuesday after Memorial, or yeah, it was Memorial Day." She was like, come back and the store's yours. We're done at that point, so you can buy whatever's left over.
So they didn't want a
So
bulk buyer there. You're running into
yeah, they
that
didn't want a bulk
already.
buyer. Rockport's not super friendly, but she cleared it with the corporate that we could come in and buy out the rest of the store. So without knowing how to send any of this into FBA or knowing anything I was doing, went and maxed out a credit card on that sale.
Without knowing
Went
about
home,
variations, right? This
yeah, knew
and
nothing.
returns and
Like, yeah, knew nothing. Just all I knew was this stuff was pennies on the dollar from MSRP. And so I was just scanning and being like, well, that looks profitable, and bought a ton of stuff there. Wish I would have bought more. But
Yeah.
went home, spent 3 days trying to figure out how to get it in. And then I was kind of off to the races after that.
Yeah.
there were some
That
experienced sellers circling the country for that Rockport sale. You
Yeah.
had one right in your backyard, your first
Yep.
hit.
Yep.
Yeah, we had our couple of our daughters had done travel Taj for our business, and we're living in Oregon, and we're bumping up against resellers we knew that were sending teams all over the country, but they kind of bought out one or two Rockport stores on the West Coast. Yeah, that's one thing that I kind of admire about you, and I notice about the difference between our businesses. Kim and I will analyze something to death and then move forward real slowly. And you're just like a very decisive action taker compared to us. It's been kind of fun
Yeah.
to watch.
If I get to the point where I'm like, okay, this seems right, it's usually we'll just run in that direction.
Yeah. So early in your business, were there things, I mean, you just told us it was kind of easy to get all that Rockport, but what felt easier? For me, it felt like I was printing money almost. It almost felt illegal. And then what was harder than you expected?
Nothing was hard in the beginning. Um, well, other than the prep and ship, like actually getting the stuff out of the door. So my wife wasn't fully on board. She was kind of in the same boat, like this can't possibly be legal or above board. So it was like finding the stuff was easy. It was a little scary managing the debt because I didn't have the cash on hand to do it. So managing the financing was hard.
At what
Getting the
point did you
profit.
quit your job?
December of that year. So I started in May, and then November I handed my 2 week notice, and I think December 8th was my last day.
Wow.
So it was pretty quick.
Yeah.
Uh, I in hindsight, was the business ready? No, it wasn't. But also, like, you just kind of make it work at that point. It was a burn the boats kind of moment. Like, okay, I really don't want to spend the rest of my life doing this, so I'm going to burn the boats, and this is going to be my only option.
Yeah. I described wanting to get out of my old consulting job as feeling like a raccoon caught in a trap. And I was like ready to chew my own leg off, just anything to get out of that situation so I had more time with the family. Sounds like you felt pretty similar.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And in the early days, I was in the office 12-ish hours. And so all my sourcing was done on my way home. Thankfully, there was an outlet mall on the way home from my work. But yeah, I'd be at the outlet malls till they closed. You get home and eat real quick, go to bed and repeat. Ship all weekend long. Did that for probably, let's see, that's 6 months-ish, give or take. But then I
Yeah.
was doing six-figure months by the time I quit my job and
It's
making
an
far
amazing
more.
arc.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
At
actually
what
funny.
point did Whitney buy into it?
Uh July of the next year. So at that point, like I had been at home, working, like I was out buying 3 days a week and I would be at home shipping 2 days a week. And it was I didn't have to get up by alarm anymore. And she was still doing hair. And eventually she was like, this just doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, early in our business, so you know, and the audience should know we homeschool. And in fact, I'm just going to say on any of these podcast episodes, if you hear screams of children or knocks and bumps, it's because my kids are doing school on the other side of the wall behind my camera. So just open transparency. We have a tutor that helps us with the homeschooling now, and the kids have two schoolrooms. And so they come here to the office and study for about 4 or 5 hours. But early in
So,
the
so they're
business,
homeschooled, but not at home and not by their parents. The most non-traditional school homeschool ever.
right. But I kind of, we had teenage daughters who were homeschooled. We went to a small church and they were like, no, I want a real job. I want to go make friends. I'm out of here. And so three or four of them went to a coffee shop. But they invariably, because we lived close, got put on the breakfast shift. And so they would be coming home and at like 10 o'clock in the morning, they'd work 5, 6 hours. And I'd be standing at the front door to greet them with a cup of coffee, being like, hey, how was your day? It wasn't nice,
Right.
but eventually they came back to work for us for a couple of years. Um, so yeah, as you had this huge, we have kind of a similar timeline in that I think I quit my job about the same amount of time after we started Amazon, but you were about a year ahead of us in terms of revenue. As you grew
Yeah, we
that
did not hit a
fast,
million our first year.
yeah, it was our second year for sure. What got harder, like as you grew? Because I know the complications of the business grows. Like what were the challenges you weren't expecting?
Probably the biggest pitfall I had was not understanding different inventory categories. So 2018, that Q4, so the 2017 Q4, my first one, every toy I bought sold for like 100% ROI. Like everything was great. Made a ton of money super fast. I went to go do that again in 2018. And by the end of Q4, I had thousands of toys that hadn't sold. I was in pretty rough shape by the end of 2018 and just not understanding categories, not fully understanding Keepa, not really knowing the depth of like, what is this? Is this actually a rare product? Is this something that has value? And my first experience to oh my gosh, if I sell this at the price Amazon's selling it, I'm going to lose more money than just throwing it away. Um,
Right.
so that was hard. And I ended up filling up an entire county's worth of women's shelters with toys for the kids that come through there. With just my returns, like my friend who runs the county shelters, his wife was just shocked as I was just bringing van load after van load. And after every one, I'm like, would you like another one? Like,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that was a pretty hard lesson. And that was part of what Robin was telling me too. Like I had dead inventory. I was a hyperactive buyer. Um, So there were definitely some lessons on the inventory end of it, and then managing your books and knowing how that money moves from point A to point B and how you actually get it into your bank.
Yeah, that's kind of hilarious to me because today you're up there in the top three people that I think of as very meticulous and analytical buyers. So you've had quite an arc when it comes to understanding the front end of your business then, haven't you?
Yeah, trial by fire. Like I screwed it up a bunch early on, and
Right.
eventually got really good at it. Oddly enough, with Robin's retreats, so the first one, her and Cindy and a couple other people sat me down and explained to me how bad my business was. And then on the second one, I came in. So a year later, I was debt free. Business was wildly profitable. And then I got to do the second interview in front of everybody and be like, here's how you 180 your business and go the other direction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just strikes me that when you move fast, you iterate fast. And if you're paying attention to the data, that's going to help you iterate towards progress and success faster, right? Where
Yes.
some people iterate quick and they don't take time to like measure what they're doing, but you're really good at measuring what you're doing.
You
So
did have some life skills from your previous experience that you were able to bring to bear there too, right? Did it just take you a little while to figure out how to apply them, where to apply them?
Uh, so for the inventory side of it and actually running an inventory-based business, my father-in-law runs the largest lumber company in Wisconsin, and like I would just sit and ask him question after question. It was awkward at first because he was also the one that got me the job that I left to go do the Amazon. So it
Right.
was it was a little weird, and I had to be careful how I was phrasing my questions, but it was essentially a free PhD in how to run an inventory-based business. I had to gear everything towards the lumber industry, but if I had a question, and there's obviously managing an inventory-based business, it doesn't really matter what the widget is. The the philosophy is the same through all of it. How do you, and one of the biggest things he does is he forces managers to go deal with dead inventory. So one of the sneakiest things you can do in an inventory-based business is hold your dead inventory and make your profit margins look really good. And he would force managers to deal with their dead inventory, which killed their profit initially. But in the long run, you end up in a much better cash flow position. You
Healthier.
turn your
Yeah.
inventory faster, and you end up with a much healthier, much better P&L.
Yeah. Well, I don't know the question I was going to ask you, but let's drill down on that because I think that's really relevant to Amazon sellers. We've seen it in a couple of cycles over the life of our business. The first one was when I took over sourcing shoes and I didn't understand orphans and variations. And I would buy what looked like a hot listing, but a crappy variation. And so that inventory would sit there. Another one was right after COVID when we started developing our shopper metrics. And we realized COVID made everything look sexy. And we had a certain shoppers that were growing piles of dead inventory. Like that really can have a dramatic impact on not just if you can grow, but if you can just keep the business running, right?
Yeah. And what's hard is at initial glance, your profit margin is going to be great. Your like everything's going to look great, but you're not going to have any cash in the bank because
Right.
there's just all this money. Like your assets look good, your balance sheet looks good, your profit and loss looks good, but there's a lot of dead inventory there. And so you just don't have any cash to ever replace that inventory. And until you dig in and go, oh no, 40% of my inventory is over 90 days old. Like I'm holding on to a bunch of junk.
Yeah.
Inventory
Does
as
that
a
sound familiar,
liability
hon?
masquerading as an asset.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Yeah, so I think you answered this already, but was there a moment when you sort of questioned like, am I doing this right? And I'm
It,
guessing
it,
is that interview with Cindy and Robin?
yes. Yeah. And then I went home and I tore everything apart and I found the dead inventory. So that would have been late January. And it took me till probably third week in March before I was like, okay, all of this is getting recalled. This is just garbage. We're throwing it away. I'll take the loss. I liquidated what I could liquidate. And my inventory fell by probably 50, 60%. But then a month after that, my sales numbers were up with a fraction of the inventory. My cash flow was better. Like it was a pretty quick turnaround. And I just went really lean and went, okay, I need things that move. And so then that was the focus from there on out.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I can pause here and pick you two brainiacs' brains a little bit. Like, how do you how do you dip into your Amazon account and find like what do you look at, whether it's Inventory Lab, Scan Power, Seller Central? How do you know that you have that dead inventory?
A really quick, like canary in the coal mine is just your IPI. Like go to your
Okay.
IPI, it's going to show you your dates, your ranges, and then you should just go like anything nearing 365 days, I want less than like 2%. And then just like the next one, maybe 5%. And then, but most everything, I want 85% of my inventory to be under 90 days.
Yeah. Do you agree with that, Kim?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. You want to target, you want the great majority to sell in the first 90 days. And if it's past 90 days, look at it, see how much of it there is, and see if you can understand why it's not selling. Is it a listing issue? Is it a pricing issue? Was it just a bad choice right off the bat and you're smarter now? And whatever it
Yeah.
is, get rid of it and redeploy that capital. Get half your money back if that's what you can do and buy something better this time.
With the caveat to that being, there have been times that I've deliberately bought out a season. Okay, fine. I knew when I bought that I was going to go over 90 days. So then, fine, I'll look at those.
Yeah.
And if that's what's causing the problem, I'm going to let it ride out. But I'm also going to be quick peak season to lower the price on that and move it if I need to because I've already sat on it for so long.
Do you tend to send
Yeah.
all those buys in or do you hold some of them back?
I send everything in. I run super lean. We do everything out of a couple hundred square feet. So I don't really have room. I've considered in the past renting a storage unit, but at the end of the day, your Amazon storage fees aren't that much. Like every time I go look at my storage fees, it's less than it always says it's 0% of my monthly FBA sales. So I'm like, I can't rent a storage unit for that cheap. I might as well just let Amazon store it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of a good segue into one reason we wanted to talk to you because I think scaling doesn't always look like 10 million like us, right? Scaling often looks like building the business to the size that you need to fit your lifestyle goals and your financial goals. And you've kind of hit a sweet spot for yourself. Like we've talked, we've known each other almost 10 years. You're big enough for you and you're very comfortable where you are, and you have no interest in running three or four teams across a couple states or cities, right?
No, not really. Maybe as the kids get older. And so I've got one that's in high school now, and she's kind of off with her friends. Got one more that's got a few more years. Maybe at that point, grow something a little bit bigger.
Sure.
But for the last 7, 8 years, this has been perfect. Like we're upper middle class, we make good money. But also like we have almost no overhead. The business runs on a couple $1,000s of software and some boxes and tape. We use half of a garage. Um,
Right.
so it just gives you a lot of flexibility at that point that like, man, if I want to take a couple weeks off, I can because I have no overhead.
Right. Yeah, and there's definitely having a bigger operation complications that come with it. Like we were in the day-to-day grind right up until we paid for an administrative team, and now that's letting us focus on coaching and podcasting. So you really have to make a choice. Like, do you build the business that works for your goals, I guess is my point. Now,
Well, to touch on that too, you have the same freedom I do. We went two totally different ways to get there.
yeah,
I went, I'm just going to have no overhead. And you went, I'm going to build a self-sustaining thing. There are definitely pros and cons to it. You could probably walk away from your business longer than I could. So, like, it's kind of something you got to weigh out for what works for you.
yeah, agreed. Yeah, yeah. Again, I think the conversation's rolling so well, but one thing I wanted to ask you is like, what were some things that were like big wins that didn't drive your top line up necessarily? And it sounds like that rebuilding your inventory after that first meeting with Robin and Cindy was one of those. Are there other things that like changed how you ran your business, but wasn't that vanity top line metric?
Uh, so, well, one of the first things I did and was a major pain point for us because we were working on limited space was trying to actually get the product in and out of your house. Um, and you went down the whole road of lean. I mapped it out like and just got super efficient with it. Like, okay, everything comes in here. It literally just does a U and goes right back out to where UPS picks it up. So if you can dial that in, it doesn't become overwhelming. It doesn't consume your entire house. And then you can actually live.
Right.
Because this business can be all consuming if you let it.
Oh yeah. At
Probably,
one point, we didn't have a living room. Like we had
yes.
piles of toys and shoes, filled up the living room, filled up the breakfast area until we figured out, exactly how to balance the inbound and the outbound, basically.
Yep. Yeah. So there's the physical aspect of it. Another one, and this is one that I still work on today. Uh, I try to move in directions that everybody else isn't. So if I see like, hey, the new trend on social media is buyers are pushing in this direction, whether it be Amazon flips or this, and like you see people coming out pushing this, I'm almost immediately going to look for a different way to source. I'm going to try and find something else. I'm trying to stay as far away from the herd as I can. And I'm trying to stay on listings all by myself. And that way I can drive the most amount of profit per item that I can. Because I don't really have the capacity to push volume. So I have to really watch my average sale price and I have to watch my profit per item.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've really seen our ASP go up over the years too, and that's been a quiet win that isn't visible from the outside, but it meant a lot on the inside, a lot to the mechanics of how things work from day to day.
Yes, you need less warehouse help. Like now, all of a sudden, one person can process an entire week's worth of profit in a relatively short amount of time versus needing, like at one point, I had 6 people working for me, and I was averaging like this is when we were pushing a lot of low dollar Nike apparel. It was good. It was like we were doubling our money, but it required a lot of man hours to push that much material through. And then we switched to $200 to $300 shoes. And now I can process an entire week's worth of product in a couple hours by myself if I need to. Like there just doesn't require a whole lot of effort to get that out the door.
So that
Yeah, I
that
can
feels
test.
like it feels like you already answered the question before I asked. I was going to ask about a win that's not necessarily obvious or a success that's not obvious from the outside, but it meant a lot to you or your business.
Yeah, that would have really been focusing on how do you drive that profit per item? And then constantly looking at new categories, new SKUs. Where's an area that's being neglected that I can go find? Where are the other resellers? Like we're in the Chicagoland area, there's a bunch of gigantic sellers here. Where are they not looking? So that I can go look there and I don't have to go head to head with them. Because if I go head to head with them, I'm gonna lose.
So many people will use competition, local competition as an excuse, and it seems like it's just driven you to find other ways to branch out and be different.
Yeah. Yeah. Not everybody, with that being said, not everybody lives in a great area. I have friends and they've said their stores aren't great by them. And I've actually went and looked and was like, well, you're right. Like you don't have much by you. But in this area between Chicago, Milwaukee, like, yeah, there's millions of stores. Just go find someplace else to go shop.
But
Um,
there's also some huge sellers, and that
yes.
hasn't stopped you from finding success.
Yeah, yeah. Like if you want to go down and shop the two Dick's warehouse stores with them, you're gonna lose. They have a team of people. They're going to have talked to the managers. They'll have everything pulled off to the side. Like you're not gonna have a great time with that. But there's a million other stores they're not touching that you may be able to pick up 500 $1,000. Yeah, you may have to hit 10 stores over 2 days, but fine, you're going to get your spend in and you're going to double your money versus going and trying to make 30% going head to head at a Nike store.
So what are some other difficult circumstances or setbacks, challenges that you've faced? What what have you learned from them too? What have been some difficult lessons?
So probably one of the hardest ones was we took the business for granted. And we got to a point where we were like, well, do we even need to do Amazon? We could start something else. Completely took our eye off the ball. Got cocky, thought we were always going to make a ton of money and it was always going to be really easy. And then we had a year, I think, end of 2021, start of 2022, where it got really scary, where it was like, I don't know if we're going to make it. Had to completely refocus. We went and borrowed money again, went and bought all new inventory. And actually, that would have coincided with the inflation surge. So constantly paying more and more and more for inventory
Yes.
and then
Stores
clothes.
were charging more than their own MSRP for stuff.
Yes. And then clothing and shoes doesn't actually maintain inflation very well. Like if you go back and look, clothing and shoes hasn't inflated in like 40 years. So if you pay up for your inventory, there's a really ugly downside that stuff may have to get liquidated for a deep loss, which is what happened. So we liquidated everything, borrowed money, re-bought at better prices, and just started everything back over again.
But again, you were looking at those numbers so you could measure that on a cadence that lets you know, am I doing well? Am I doing better, worse? Like what levers do I need to pull to make that better? I think a lot of people are just in the like source and ship cycle and they're not taking time on their business to go back and check numbers on a regular basis. They'll do it irregularly, erratically, but not regularly to measure performance.
Yeah, and actually that was one of the things that saved me. Coming into Q4 2021, there was supposed to be a massive toy shortage. It was supposed to just be if you find them, buy them, and it was going to be just like 2020, and it wasn't. The shipping containers all landed, and toys got really brutal. And I ended up about 3 days before Black Friday. I noticed that the offer counts just kept climbing. Everything was looking poor. I set almost all of my inventory to liquidate over the next 30 days. So I was able to liquidate into strength. I got at least most of my money back and then had better capital to hit the clearance season. Because obviously it wasn't just us who got hit, like all the other retailers got hit too. So that 2022 clearance season ended up being fantastic. But had I not liquidated going into 2021, I wouldn't have had the cash to
Right.
rebound and go back into 2022.
Yeah, I remember talking with you. This is a good point. Good time to say, if you don't have a mastermind, keep searching till you find one. Because from that first retreat, um, Nick, Kim, and I have been in a mastermind with a cohort that came out of that retreat, and we've been able to help each other strategize through. And I remember getting those weekly reports from you and how you slingshotted out of that, and just your business kept trucking after that. That was huge.
Yeah. Yeah, so there have definitely been some scary moments. But if you're able to work through them, well, first you have to catch them. Like you have to catch them early because they can get really out of control really fast. And then if you miss an opportunity to liquidate, so you were holding a bunch of winter gear and you decide you're not going to liquidate till March or April, that's going to be a problem. You're going to
Yeah.
now be competing with every other retailer who they're fine. Like Amazon's not going to go out of business if they got to sell a $500 coat for $40. Like they're going to be fine. You might not be.
Right. Yeah, I actually learned that lesson working, like I worked 10 years for a catalog company. I ran their distribution center and they were small. They tended to buy high dollar toys and sell them in their catalog. And they did 30% of their business in the fourth quarter. And they had this attitude that, well, I'm not going to liquidate while everybody's buying. But the problem was, as you come out of Halloween into Christmas, as you approach Black Friday, with a set like just like private label or wholesale, you kind of can see what's going to work well and what's not. And they wouldn't liquidate the bad sellers while everybody was buying. They just wouldn't. And so what invariably would happen would we'd get around to March or April and they would have to pay their taxes. And then suddenly we're doing fire sales. And that's like that period from February to April when the tax returns are just barely starting to come in. You really have to discount, right? To get people to spend money. And so that kind of lived rent free in my head. And early on, especially, we would take a sharp look at our catalog, and anything that looked like dead inventory, we would just slash and burn the prices leading up to Christmas because that's when people are in the mood to buy. So
And we
I
noticed
think,
that the sooner we liquidated bad buys, the more of our money we recovered too.
yeah,
If you wait, the price just keeps going down and down. When we liquidate early, our overall profitability is much better. Our
Well,
average ROI stays higher.
and as a reseller, that is supposed to be your strong suit. You're supposed to be capitalizing on large retailers who did not liquidate at the right time, picking
right.
up their inventory and then either carrying it to the proper season or finding the proper market for it. But yeah, you're not supposed to be making the same mistake they did because that's how you ended up with the inventory in the first place.
Right.
I feel
So
attacked.
I'm really curious, Nick. You've been in the game for a long time, almost a decade. How has your definition of success changed from those early days?
I
Don't you love
don't,
open-ended questions?
yeah, yeah. I don't look at my revenue numbers too much anymore. I manage most things purely by profit, purely by at the end of the day, like what's my cash flow look like? Um, some of it I've probably changed. It's changed my attitude. Like it used to be really exciting. The treasure hunt part of this does kind of wear off after a while. Um,
Mhm.
so there definitely is more like you're punching a time clock a little bit. But with that, like I'll find different ways to do things. Like I was never a big OA guy. Now I'm kind of a big OA guy because I like the ability to just have product come in. But much more I guess I'm less focused on having a business that meets certain metrics and more about can I have this fund and exact lifestyle that I want?
So if you could go back and do it again, if you could talk to your previous self, what would you do more of, and what would you, or tell yourself to do more of? What would you tell yourself to do less of? What advice would you give?
If I could go in a time machine, I would tell myself to buy more Nike when Nike was really good. Like that would be an easy one. Um, but other than that, focus. Be humble. Don't let success change how you became successful. That was probably one of the hardest lessons I had to learn. And just the times that you get overconfident and you are just immediately humbled and brought back to your knees and then have to pick back up and because in 2018 I had something that was working. I gambled on toys, caused me issues. 2021 I was overconfident from the 2021 success, and actually I gambled on toys again. So maybe just don't gamble on toys. I've had three
That seems to be
terrible
the
years
common
and two
theme
good
here.
ones. Yeah. Which I know there's a ton of people that do great with them, but that's just not my lane.
Yeah.
So I guess stay in your lane, do what you know is working, and then do more of it.
Well, let's lean into that a little bit because from a longevity standpoint, especially people that jump in on a high, I think it's easy not to realize this business is very cyclical and you're going to have your highs and then you're going to have your dips where you have to refocus, retool, whether the market shifted or your attention shifted. But that's just, after 8 to 10 years, that's just part of the life of an Amazon seller where things ebb and flow. And so don't get discouraged and think you can't do the business because you're at a low point. It's a time to look under the hood. I keep using that, like Kim gave me that phrase the other day, but look at the mechanics of your business and figure out what do you need to change to get back on track, right?
Yeah, definitely. I have also noticed my biggest upswings come just after those low points. And with the cyclical nature of this business, you are usually not the only one who is going through a low point. Usually, we are all going through a low point together. Um, but that usually causes a bunch of sellers to fail. And then shortly after that, there is no competition. You have just this wild upswing. Um,
Mhm.
and the biggest trick
It,
is, oh, go
it's
ahead.
it, it's also an opportunity to do what you said before, which is when everybody else is going left, you go right. Like look at
Yes.
where everybody's going and don't follow the herd, and you can create kind of mini moats around your inventory, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And it will. It will constantly change. Once you've built that moat, somebody's going to figure it out. Somebody's going to like, nothing we do is that much rocket science. Like, and if you found something that's wildly profitable, and if it is any sort of name brand, somebody's going to figure it out. And eventually you're going to see the usual suspects. So, okay, that is now just part of what I have to do on a regular basis is continue to figure out where are they missing? What is being underserved?
Yeah.
Don't get comfortable.
Yep.
So what's something else that nobody talks about in reselling that you think more people need to hear?
That's a good question.
That cyclical nature is huge.
Yes.
That's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that one is huge that you're for sure going to have a rough moment. I don't care how big of a seller you are. Like there's going to be a point where you're contemplating whether or not this business is going to make it. But usually just on the other side of that is another run of really good stuff. Probably the other biggest one is just make sure you know your inventory. Make sure you know it's sitting there. And comb over it pretty regularly. Maybe outlet deals. The Amazon outlet deals would be the other one. Offload your product when you have a chance. Even if it's break even, a little bit of a loss, like you are better off than holding that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. A lot of people are afraid to take a loss on something. They're willing to sit on bad inventory as long as it takes to get their money back, and they don't see the benefit in taking a loss.
Yeah. And in almost a decade of data, like the losses don't hurt. The ones that hurt are the ones where you can't sell the item. Like if you have to, especially now with the fee changes, if you've got to pay them $6 to throw that thing away or send it back to you, that hurts. That stings. You would have been much better off to have offloaded that for whatever you could, even just to
Right,
avoid
because
the
once you have
fees.
it brought back, you still have to deal with it.
Yes, yeah, it's now bogging you down. It's probably not
Well,
worth anything on eBay. It was just a
there's
junk
two,
item.
yeah, there's two purchases that haunt me. The first one kind of taught me not to get emotionally attached to your inventory. I went around a bunch of TJ Maxx's and they apparently bought a ton of baby blue men's North Face hoodies around 2017, 18, and I just cleared the shelves. And when they started coming back and they were like $150 hoodies or something, and I was like, no, that's worth money. And Kim just looked at me and went, is it if nobody bought it?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then the other one was the year I decided to try to get into winter coats, and there was these mid-length women's trench coats, Calvin Klein brand, light pink, extra small. Like they haunt my
Oh,
dreams, right?
oh.
And
What were we
I thought,
thinking?
I mean, the MSRP was like 250 and I was getting them for $50. That's what I was thinking.
There's a
And
reason
none
we're
of
getting
them,
them for $50 because nobody
right,
wanted.
none of them sold. None of them sold. And I didn't hold on. I didn't try to liquidate them and I held on to them and then we chunked them in March, you know.
I
So
think
yeah,
those hoodies you actually wanted to send back in, right? They sat there for a whole year cycle. That was an early lesson. That was a legitimate
yeah,
lesson. If nobody
yeah,
bought it the
it
first year,
really
they're not
was.
going to buy it the next year.
I let my basement get full of stuff that I swore I was going to list on eBay. Probably the greatest thing Amazon ever did was allow clothing and shoes to be resold as used as new. Um, like the stuff doesn't come back. It's fine. If you deem it's used, like just sell it. Like I just don't want to see it at my house anymore.
Right. Yeah, probably the best thing we did was get a relationship with the local Plato's
Mhm.
Closet resale store where anything that's returned is unsellable and we legitimately can't send it back to Amazon because it's about 50%. Amazon just sends new stuff back and we relist it. But the other 50%, this lady from Plato's comes in, takes it to her store, and she sends us an email. This is what I'll give you for it. And our employees are shocked. They're like, that's too cheap. We're like, no, it's not. It's like 1/10% or less of everything we sell. Take the cash and forget about it. Like it doesn't need to live here. It doesn't need to take up room. Get rid of it.
There is a cost per square foot to store it. There is like, yeah, your employees touching it, or even worse, if you have to touch it. Like,
Right.
yeah, just get rid of it.
I love that this
Yeah.
stuff just disappears. We don't have to take it anywhere. They come and get it. It just
Yep,
goes away and they give us money.
yep.
Yeah. And a cool thing we do with our team is anybody in the company can go through unsellable returns and take stuff, I think we tell them 3 items a week. no, but I don't think anybody, but maybe Kim and Natasha approach that. But they just
Hey.
if if you need it, if you need it, and your family can use it, even extended family, just take it. Like we want to be a blessing to you.
Yeah, it was. I had stumbled across the amazing winter gear sale. Stuff ended up 90% off MSRP. So I bought all sorts of crazy rink stuff. Eventually, you're going to have a pile of stuff that didn't sell. Um, I had maybe, I don't know, 100 winter coats that didn't sell, but I paid pennies on the dollar for them and made crazy money on that sale. Brought it back and ran a garage sale, told the whole community to come by, and just sold high-end winter coats for $5 to $10. People were coming in, they're like, I got these kids, can I really like, yes, winter snow
Take them.
pants, jackets, whatever you got, like you get them
Right,
outfitted.
right.
They're all waterproof too, like you're good.
Yeah, yeah. It feels good when you can do stuff like that too, doesn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So as we start to wrap up here, let's talk about the kind of talk about the future and your mindset a little bit. How do you feel about where your business is right now, and how does that align with your goals that like have your goals shifted from when you started where your business is now? Are you still pushing for the same goals? Have they evolved?
They are about to evolve, kind of going back to my kids getting older. So the business has done up to this point everything I wanted it to. I've taken entire winters off to ski with my kids. I have not missed a single sporting event. I was a gym teacher 1 year for my kids, help practices, like all the things that I could have ever imagined to be able to do, I've been able to do. And now probably getting more retirement focused, where I've got 20 more years and I would like to build a life that's a little bit cushier. So I'm actually probably leaning towards the start growing,
Mhm.
have it generate more money. Obviously, Amazon's an ever-changing landscape, so I don't know if that's going to involve a mixture of RA, OA, and maybe having to venture down some of the other paths like wholesale or PL. But yeah, definitely looking at having to grow things now to be able to reach the second half of my life goals.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of already answered this, but what are your goals for your business moving forward?
So last year we ended up having to sell our house. Had some issues with it causing us health problems, so we sold it. So then I missed December, January, February, March. I didn't work on the business for 4 straight months. So last year was all about stabilize and get it back to a decent point. This year's continue the stabilization, and double what I did last year. Which we have plenty of capacity to do. We don't really have to change much. It's just a matter of being consistent month over month. We
Not
got
too many
into,
people can casually just plan to double in a year.
yeah, like part of it is like you got a decade of
You've done this
experience.
before.
Yes,
Yeah.
I got a decade of experience. There's money to work with. We know different product categories. Like it's easier to apply. And last year was terrible, so your multiplier's not your multiplier's not
That's
as
fair.
bad. Yeah. Um,
And you're not
but we got
afraid to use
into,
debt, right? I gather that you don't
I
like
don't,
debt, but you use it when you need to.
yeah, I'm not 100% opposed to it. Like I'm full Dave Ramsey on the personal side of my finances, but on the business side, like debt can be useful. More than once, it has gotten me out of trouble. It's gotten me into trouble. You got to be careful with it. It's a double-edged sword. But I don't mind it. Um,
Do you have
and
safeguards in place to keep it from getting you into trouble? Or is that just your past lessons that you've learned? You know, you're not gonna make those
past
mistakes
lessons,
again.
and I usually limit it to like now if I'm going to take out debt, there's got to be something there. So obviously, like I have short-term revolving debt, and if I find product that I really like and I'm able to spend 3, 4, 5 times what I normally would in a month, okay, fine. We're going to run up my revolving debt and then I'll go out and take a loan, but I've already bought that inventory. That inventory is already in Amazon. So it makes more sense at that point. Like, okay, here was the moment. I guess what I wouldn't do was take the loan out and then go try to figure out what I'm going to do with the money. It's like
Mhm.
have it earmarked,
That's good
have it,
advice.
yes, have it already bought. I already know that this was a really good idea. Now go borrow the money and reset your cash flow and then extend out those payments so you're not paying the 30% on a credit card.
Yeah, that was going to be my last question, but I think there's one little topic we should talk about since we're talking about debt, right? We learned this the hard way because early on, I think we took two Amazon loans. Is
Hmm.
that right?
Yeah, two.
And
And then one was
but
refinanced immediately, but it was basically the same loan.
yeah, but the lesson we learned there was when you use debt to grow your inventory, you have to take the profits from those sales to pay down the debt. You can't just keep pushing at that upper limit, right? There's a cash flow curve that people need to understand about that debt.
Yeah. Yeah. Whether your profit is, whether you want to look at it as you have to repay the inventory so you don't have that inventory money to now go buy new inventory. So 100% of your
Right.
profits got to go to maintain your, yeah, it's cash flow crunch. And it isn't going to
Got this
net you
this
what you,
visual image. I got a visual image of snowballing, right? And normally you can kind of snowball your capital, your profits
yes,
gets bigger and bigger, but you dug a ditch to build that snowball, and
yes.
that snowball is going to hit a ditch if you don't
Yeah.
peel some off and fill it in.
So
Careful, Dave
you're
Ramsey's going to sue us if you say snowball too many times.
right. So it is something that you aren't going to actually reap the benefits of that loan till you've gotten out of the loan or till
Yeah,
you've figured out how that cycle is going to work out. But you have to stabilize for a period of time. That's a huge part of this business is when you're in a growth phase, you will be really poor. So if you're just forever in a growth phase, you're going to have a really hard time actually extracting any money out of the business. For myself, I will go through growth and plateau phases where for a period of time, I'm intentionally just holding my inventory steady because I need to cover expenses or I want cash. So you can't grow if you want to extract cash out of the business. And
yeah.
maybe also with that for smaller sellers, another concept that was hard for me to learn is you are your company's worst enemy. So your personal lifestyle, your expenses, like you are the biggest liability to your company.
Your point about cash flow always makes me think about the Nike story. If anybody out there hasn't read Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the founder of Nike, it's a fantastic business read. The reason it caught my ear is because Nike, like us, is an inventory-based business. And Nike, like many sellers, grew with debt, and they didn't get out of debt till they had their IPO. And I remember that chapter in the book clearly because it was like they brought in, I think it was around 16 million in one day from their IPO, and suddenly they were on a cash basis. Most sellers, you're not going to have an IPO. You're not going to have a sudden random injection of cash. So you have to manage that a lot more closely. Like Nike was literally running to the bank to get a loan, get the shoes on the market. The market grew, so they run back to the bank to get another loan. Like they never had cash till their IPO. And it's
Yeah.
very analogous to what we're talking about here. And so
Yep.
since we're not going to IPO or RA businesses or arbitrage businesses, you got to have the systems to manage that growth and ebb and flow, like you're talking about, plateau, pay the debt down. You can't just endlessly borrow.
And there are multiple ways to do this. I know people who have grown very large businesses through debt, and every time they ran out of money, they just went and got more. And it works, and you can do it, but you better know what you're doing. You better be
Right.
super diligent with your books. You better have like your labor dialed in, like everything better be functioning very, very well. And if you are sloppy on any of that stuff, debt is going to choke you out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Nick, this has been a wonderful conversation. We really appreciate you joining us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for
thank you
having me,
so
guys.
much.
Yeah, for sure. And if you guys enjoyed this, I would be remiss if I didn't plug our website. Our links to our socials will be in the description of this video. But we have started a paid community on school. It's school.com/ecom toolbox. We'd love to have you guys join us. We do open calls where we talk like this with the members every Tuesday. And every Thursday night, we're teaching something about how to run your business. So if that interests you, hit the link below, and join us. Nick, again, I appreciate your time, and I'll talk to you next Tuesday on our mastermind.
Yes, for sure. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, take care.